board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Good evening to everyone. It's great to see a packed house. I think we have some exciting things happen tonight, but I also understand that it's star testing season, so we need to get this meeting over pretty quickly. So tonight, the Board of Trustees is meeting in a called work session meeting. The board welcomes and values input from the community. A single open forum will be provided during tonight's meeting to allow the public the opportunity to address the board. During this time, individuals may share comments or requests related to both agenda and non-agenda items. Those addressing the board are asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes per meeting. The speaker should identify their name, group affiliation if any, and make a brief presentation with an identified solution if one is sought. Remarks should be addressed to the board as a whole. Oral presentations may not include charges against any employee or board member by name. It is my responsibility to determine if the person addressing the board has attempted to resolve the concern informally or through the district's complaint policies. If not, the speaker will be directed to follow the appropriate policy. The board requests that all presentations be made in a courteous, respectful, and professional manner, and asks that speakers monitor their own behavior. If you wish to speak during the open forum, please fill out one of the cards located on the table in the entry hall. Dr. Harrington, any comments?
None at this time.
Any clarifications?
None at this time.
All right, 3.01, TASBO Award of Merit for Purchasing Operations. Ms. Hollander.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Tonight, we would like to honor our purchasing team. And once again, as most years, our AGB-ISD purchasing team has been recognized by TASBO, the Texas Association of School Business Officials, with the Award of Merit for Purchasing Operations, a distinction that highlights excellence in professionalism, innovation, and dedication to best practices in public procurement. This achievement reflects this team's commitment to integrity, efficiency, and outstanding service in support of district operations. Through their collaborative efforts and attention to detail, the purchasing team continues to ensure that resources are managed responsibly and strategically for the benefit of our schools and our community. So at this time, I'm going to have Dr. Harrington award this team with this prestigious honor. And Dobie, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. I don't want to take up a lot of time, but I do want to say how proud we are of these guys and what a lot of people don't realize. Mr. Brown, probably as close as anybody, realizes what it takes in a purchasing department. It's a lot of big districts have attorneys that set as their purchasing directors. We're very fortunate to have Mr. Curbo and his team, and I just want to personally thank you for the job y'all do. Thank you.
Thank you, Purchasing Department. All right, we're ready for open forum. Ms. Hollander, any cards? No cards? All right, then at this time, the board will adjourn into closed session. Pursuant to Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, the board will adjourn into closed session pursuant to Sections 551.072 and 551.074. We do have a few people to talk to, so it will take us a little while, but we'll get back just as soon as we can. Thank you for your patience. All right, at this time, the board will reconvene into open session. We're at action items 7.01. I will accept a motion.
I move that the board approve the appointment of Shannon Zamolik as the Bedford Heights Elementary School principal as submitted.
Second?
I have a motion and a second that the board approve the appointment of Shannon Zamolik as Bedford Heights Elementary School principal as submitted. Please vote. Yeah.
Hopefully.
And that motion passes.
Oh, okay, now it's on. I am here with my mom and my dad and my husband, Hunter, Junie and Jade, and Miranda, and all of you.
Congratulations, Shannon. All right, item 7.02. I will accept a motion.
I move that the board approve the appointment of Lauren Herrera as the Donna Park Elementary School principal as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second that the board approve the appointment of Lauren Herrera as Donna Park Elementary School principal as submitted. Please vote. And that motion passes.
Hello, thank you so much. I'm here with my husband, David. My mom, Nona, and both of my girls, Mary and Anna, and my niece, Mackenzie, and the most wonderful staff a person could ever ask for.
Congratulations. Item 7.03. I'll accept a motion.
I move that the board approve the appointment of Rachel Thornberry as the Hurst-Hills Elementary School principal as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second that the board approve the appointment of Rachel Thornberry as Hurst-Hills Elementary School principal as submitted. Please vote. And that motion passes.
Thank you. I am here tonight with my husband, Michael, my two daughters, Sarah and Jessica, and their husbands, my three grandchildren, my very best friend, Suzanne from Miss Purse's studio, my sister, Rebecca, and her husband, my niece, Isabel, who, by the way, is over at Donna Park with Miss Herrera, my wise counsel that Dr. Johnson told me about. I have Jody Ramos and Misty Donahoe. And if you didn't notice, Falcons.
Congratulations. Item 7.04, I'll accept a motion.
I move that the board approve the appointment of Dr. Laura Barong as Meadow Creek Elementary School principal as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the appointment of Dr. Laura Barong as Meadow Creek Elementary School principal as submitted. Please vote. And that motion passes.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm here today with my husband Logan, my son Parker, my daughter Hallie, my mother-in-law Carol, my mom and dad, Charles and Connie in the back, my friends Sandra and Tremaine and Sherry and Tim, and my amazing principal Carrie Bartlett who came. So, and all my new Dolphin family.
All right, well, congratulations to all of our new principals and to all of our campuses. Well, we know that you have fantastic new leaders coming in to take the helm, and we look forward to next year and what that brings. But right now, we're going to give you all an opportunity to sneak out. We know you probably have other things you want to do, pictures you want to take.
Thank you.
They are.
Very exciting stuff.
Where did they go? They're taking pictures, right?
You sure you want that seat? Are you sure?
Look, Katina, you have fans.
All right, they're all elementary, so they're probably not worried about graduation, so we can probably move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, not next year. All right, 8.01, 2026 graduation update. Ms. Rhodes?
Good evening. I don't know how I can top that. That was fun. Today I'll be presenting to you our graduation update for 2026. Keys High School will graduate on May 22nd, Cross City Church location at 5:15 will be our student arrival, and the graduation ceremony will start at 7 p.m. LD Bell High School will graduate on May 24th, 2026 at Dickies Arena. Student arrival time is 1 p.m., and the graduation ceremony will start at 2 p.m. Trinity High School, same date, May 24th at Dickies Arena. Student arrival time, 5 p.m., and graduation ceremony will start at 6 p.m. General parking is the same as usual at $20 for each graduate. Will receive a 1 free parking pass. Parents and students will be able to park in the yellow lots, A, B, and C there located, and the Chevrolet parking garage. Staff parking will be at Montgomery Lot. And this is our plaza. This is the level of where the seating will take place, and all of the entryways, the stairs, the elevators, all locations. Bag policy is in place, so there's an approved bag policy and a non-approved bag policy. Transportation for the board will be available for the administration at the administration office to Dickies Arena, and seating at Dickies Arena and Cross City Church will be open, and tickets are not required. The board will make their selection. The dinner choice menu will be changing for this year, and you will be able to make your selection April 27th. Any questions?
Any questions?
Okay.
Thank you, Katina.
Thank you.
All right, 8.02 Summer 2025 Pilot Update. Work from home's designated summer days. Ms. Tuttle?
I'm excited to be able to share with you tonight a pilot that we implemented last summer, summer of 2025, allowing eligible employees who work year-round to work from home on designated summer days. I'm going to start by showing you the alignment to the strategic plan. Under the priority of employee success, we have employee engagement and retention, and that is the goal under which this particular initiative fell and falls. So I want to give you a little bit of background information that I think is important contextually. Back in the 2022-2023 school year, Mrs. Reek, Dr. Reek, and I had some conversations about a group of employees that were becoming harder and harder to retain and to recruit. And they were some of our, specifically our special ed support staff. And in that particular school year, we were focusing on LSSPs, diagnosticians, speech language pathologists, and occupational therapists. And to make a long story short, we had lots of discussions about lots of strategies we could try. And I happened to attend a conference that fall, and a session I went to was led by the Texas Association of School Boards. And it was an example of comparing and contrasting districts and organizations who had implemented some working from home and hybrid models, some that had worked well and some that had not. And they shared all of the tips and tricks of what would cause that to be successful and what had not caused some of those to be successful. And I remember very clearly hearing the presenter say, if you or your district has been saying, if we can't do it for everyone, we're not going to do it, you are going to be left behind, because we are competing for some of our specific positions that are able to work from home. We're going to be competing with those industries. And I came back and immediately contacted Renee, and we got to work and came up with a proposal for a pilot in spring of 2023 for those 4 employee groups. And it was a hybrid model. We started with 1 and 2 days a week, and we spent a good amount of time really developing processes and supporting procedures, including what was included in the work from home agreement, how would the supervisors ensure continued productivity, customer service. And so by the time we rolled that out in spring of 2023, we really experienced no glitches whatsoever. There was no lowering of productivity, customer experience, et cetera. And so in the fall of 2023, Dr. Hopkins and I visited that summer about rolling out a pilot for a small group of her employees to begin with. And so those were the first two groups where we got to actually experience with hard data what it would look like for some of our employee groups. We determine as a district which employee groups can and cannot work from home. And as you know, there are many employee groups who are not able to and will not be able to work from home in a consistent hybrid model, such as these departments. We've continued to utilize this and have expanded it in our technology department and have continued to see success. And what I want you to know is the way we've experienced success in those hybrid models is that eligibility is determined every semester. It is a practice that is a privilege, not a right. And we don't allow one person to ruin a practice for everyone. They could only ruin that practice for themselves. And honestly, we've not had that happen. Everyone has been very successful. The department leaders provide oversight, and they actually sign a supervisory agreement of how they will ensure that their departments and campuses continue to succeed. And so we use a PDSA process that we conduct annually to make sure that things are continuing to work well. I love it, love it, love it. So that's the context that I want you to have of why we were even positioned to be able to implement a pilot last summer. And so we simply took some of the successes that we had experienced and put those into a process for last summer. And last summer we looked at employees who worked 220 days or more and who had jobs that did not require them to have direct contact with students or with other stakeholders each day. And we actually really focused on providing strategic flexibility, making sure that everything was cost neutral, and using this as a retention strategy. Part of the reason this came up is because districts around us had begun to look into this, especially at the central administration and principals, individuals like that. And we studied some of them, and some of the things that we saw we liked and some we didn't. And so we really created our own model. And so for last summer, we actually had our 215 to 244 day employees. I started with 220, but we did have some 215 day employees. And there were 4 weeks that we designated as potential summer work from home weeks. And during those weeks, those 4 weeks, employees had the opportunity to work from home one day. And that was selected by their department or campus supervisor. And that meant that some people had the opportunity to do 2 of those weeks, some had 4, depending on their employment calendar. Participation was optional. And we actually last summer made a very strategic decision not to do what some of the surrounding districts have done, which is they select one day, for example, during the summer, and that's the work from home day. And one thing we did not want to do with already work weeks that are 4 days of longer days, we did not want to take another day away from our community members or stakeholders to be able to access us. So we did not choose to shut down district facilities for, an entire day. And the pilot went very well. These are some of the supporting resources, but you see here the chart that shows the 4 weeks last summer that we allowed individuals to choose between Tuesday and Wednesday or Monday and Wednesday, depending on the week. We have our FAQ that we sent out that answered lots of questions, and we had our work from home agreement. So our operational guidelines are really what we believe have ensured success. We've ensured that we're aligning this process to the same one that we utilized during the school year. The summer hours are unchanged. The customer service and customer touch points are unchanged. And then we have individuals sign their work from home agreement. And some of the things I've listed here for you, just so that you're aware, is that we do have expectations of a professional work environment that's free from distractions. So individuals are not able to be, for example, providing childcare to their children while they're working from home. Leave days are required if someone's going to have a doctor's appointment or be unavailable. It's not a substitute for a leave day. And then we also have a process wherein employees who are working from home must remain within 1 hour of the work site. And that is very rare, but should there be a situation that required employees to be here, we want to make sure that it's a normal commute and not further than that. And then we're not providing duplicate equipment or supplies to individuals. Whatever they have at their office is what they can take home with them to work. And then our supervisors sign an agreement to ensure oversight of operational effectiveness. And so we had 220 plus eligible employees to work from home last summer. And this kind of lists for you what those were. And then I want to show you some of our stakeholder feedback. We did send a survey at the end of the summer to all participants, and we tried to seek some information on how many days did they take advantage of working from home, were there any technology issues or concerns, what was their experience, and what feedback do they have for us. And out of the 220-ish people, we had 124 that responded. And I want to show you a little bit of that survey data. So you do see that 15.3% worked 0 days from home. And so again, this is optional. We never require this. We, in our department, for example, we had an employee who said, I will not work from home. That is not a stress-free environment for me because I have grandkids running around. Another person said, I'm going to try it. They tried it, didn't like it. And you have somebody seated next to you on the dais who didn't try it. And it really is optional, and it's about the individual person's preference. But then we had some folks who took advantage of 1 to 4 days. Did you experience any technology issues? So what I want to show you here is that while 21% said yes, the interesting thing about that we're so proud of is the types of issues that they had were with WebEx, issuing some of our calls not connecting, difficulty logging in, and a few issues within our e-finance program. But this is the slide that I'm most proud of because if you notice there, it says most technology issues were quickly resolved by contacting the help desk who provided remote assistance, set up initial configurations, or fixed incorrect installations. And then you also see at the bottom that some respondents had no issues at all or were able to fix those themselves. What was their experience? Majority, like 70%, had a 5, fantastic. And then we had an additional 19% with good. And then as far as the MES, those are typically individuals who didn't really enjoy working from home or might have not enjoyed not having large screens or duplicate monitors, things of that nature. But I want you to have a chance to see a few of the verbatim responses, and we've categorized these. This first slide is retention and morale, and I love the very first bullet. This initiative demonstrates that HEB-ISD trusts its employees to remain productive and accountable. And we also love that employees feel that we're being competitive with surrounding districts. Next, under productivity and operations, the clear guidelines and expectations made the process smooth and professional. And then under strategic impact, I love the last bullet. HEB-ISD continues to demonstrate that innovation and accountability can coexist. And these were direct quotes from some of our folks who had the opportunity to pilot last summer. So our proposed plan is for continuation and just a little bit of expansion, and I wanted to walk you through that. We will continue to prioritize the same 3 things, structured flexibility, customer service, and operational efficiency. We also would like to include our 210-day employees who are eligible for this because that includes some of our campus principals, assistant principals, for example. One of the reasons we felt like this was a great initiative to include our campus administrators and staff that are working year-round is that they are hiring all the time, not just on the days that they're working in the summer. There are lots of employees who are having to do that well outside of the hours, and so giving them the flexibility to be able to schedule some of those things in an uninterrupted fashion. And then we would like to continue to expand this instead of 4 work weeks, 8 work weeks with 1 day each week. One thing we would like to change is instead of saying, for example, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, we're just going to say 1 work day, and we're going to leave that up to the supervisors. So, for example, it's my responsibility for human resources to make sure that no one is experiencing a break in service. We need to facilitate that in a way that makes sure that everything can go on as continued, and we trust our supervisors to make those decisions. And we would continue, of course, to annually review this. And there are 2 supporting documents there. The first is the FAQ that we would like to send out to staff this week about this initiative, and then our work from home agreement, which again, nothing secret about it. It's very clear that it's an eligibility type process and that we have clear expectations of how to make sure that we are successful in this. So I want to see what questions you might have about this.
So just to confirm, you didn't see any dips in productivity everything kind of kept running just fine, I'm assuming.
That is correct. And last summer, keep in mind, there were some employees were eligible for 2 days, some 4, and really some of the feedback was, give us more, you know. And so, yes, there were no dips in productivity, but what I will say is anytime you expand something, certainly we want to monitor that, but the monitoring happens with interactions with the direct supervisor. And direct supervisors who are engaged, which all of ours are, know whenever there are issues, and we did not experience any and don't anticipate that this summer.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for all the due diligence that you and everybody who worked on this provided. We are always trying to thread the needle because, you know, funds are limited, so finding ways that we can show respect and trust as well as give an extra benefit that doesn't really cost us much is always something that I will welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Thank you very much for your support.
All right, 8.02, 8.03, district benchmark assessments. Dr. Norgard.
All right, thank you. I would love to bring some of that same energy from earlier this evening. So, you know, I am here with my wonderful Ed Ops leadership team and my amazing curriculum team to talk to you about our district benchmark assessments. So, yes, as we already pointed out as we open this evening, start testing tomorrow. But we're going to wrap up bringing your last 2 DBA reports to you this evening. Of course, aligned to our strategic plan for our STAR performance. Just some reminders. So I've already brought our reading language arts and our math to you. There are more changes in science and social studies than we have seen in those other 2 areas. In addition to the not being tested every year, many changes to the tests themselves, both in our local practice and from the state. So it's a little harder to draw all the same patterns and pathways that I can show you with reading and math with our science and social studies. But we definitely study all the data we have. It just doesn't come together in exactly the same way as the reading and math. For example, when we look at science, 22-23, just like with reading and math, we had the new STAR items. So that was something we had to get used to. And then we had our interim test that we've been talking about. Well, then last year, science had an overlap test because they were adopting new TEKS and coming off of old TEKS. So they had a unique test just for last year. And this year, they have a new blueprint. And in fact, they've changed the names, that we no longer have a grade 5 science test. It's the elementary science test administered in grade 5, because that rolls off the tongue more easily. But really to reflect the cumulative nature of that. It is not a single year science test, and neither is 8th grade. Both of those include 3 years worth of TEKS on those tests. In addition, another thing that is changing in the new blueprint is the number of points available on each of these tests has reduced by about a quarter. Like the 5th grade test used to have 39 points. This year, there's only 30 points. So each point is a little more expensive, so to speak. And
Points per grade. 10 points per grade.
yes, kind of, when you look at, we're trying to cover 3 years with 30 points. So lots of changes in science, and of course, since this is a new blueprint, we can't just turn to last year's test and model our DBA off of that. We are making some of our best guesses. And like we saw in 22-23 when we had the new item types, we actually tended to be a little bit harder on ourselves. Our DBAs were kind of low as we were trying to estimate and anticipate new item types and what they might look like, and then our performance at STAR went way up. So we're going to have to wait and see STAR this year and see how well did we anticipate what these new tests would look like, because in fact, there's another new item type coming brand new for this year with science. They have cluster question sets where there might be one stimulus. It could be a picture of a circuit set, and then there might be 3 to 5 questions about that. It could be a passage to read and 3 to 5 questions. So that's yet another new item type. So you can see as we try to draw year-to-year comparisons, no 2 years have really been the same. So interpret with
Do they have those types of
caution.
questions in language arts?
I'm sorry?
Do they have those types of questions in language arts? Do you read one passage and answer a bunch of
Not called cluster question sets. They have passages where they read a passage, or they have paired passages where they might have to read a poem and a passage and answer. So you could say it's a parallel to what reading has had for quite some time, but it's new for science. We haven't seen that before. And it could be one stimulus, and there's a third grade question, a fourth grade question, a fifth grade question.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to make sure I'm clear about this. So you're saying the reading test is at a grade level and is appropriate to that grade level. I mean, reading obviously grows upon itself, but science, we're going to cover 3 full years, so 3 full years of
We
curriculum.
actually always have, their third and fourth grade TEKS could be represented on the fifth grade test, and sixth and seventh could be represented on eighth. But the fact that they've renamed the test this year to be elementary science administered in fifth and middle school science administered in eighth is really stretching that understanding that, this is not just for our fifth grade science teachers. Our third and our fourth grade science teachers are really supporting the performance on this test, our sixth and our seventh. So it has always been there, just bringing it to our attention.
Right, okay. The blueprint, when you say the new blueprint, is that our is that our testing?
Yes, so
We think they will.
we get something like this. It's a chart that tells us in each of the areas a range of the number of questions that could be asked and a range of the number of points. Because with the new item types, some are 1 point, some are 2 points. So even if the same number of questions get asked in different areas, they could end up being more heavily weighted in one area. And we model our DBA off of this blueprint. But unlike other years where we could look at last year's released and we're going to model off of last year's released, last year's released was an overlap test with a different number of points.
Right, so what you're saying, what the data we're looking at here, 25, 26, that's a DBA that was given this year to our kids. And so we're looking at that data, comparing it to last year's actual testing data.
We are comparing it to last year's DBA. The year-to-year are all the DBAs, but I do have the growth slide DBA to star in there. I wanted to take some time before we got to the data slide because you need to know that when you look at the charts, that each of these years has been distinctly different. And we don't have the cohort since it's not every year. So let's look at that. So these are looking at our DBAs over the last 4 years, except the one in gray. We use the interim instead of DBA, as we did discuss with math and reading. So we saw gains last year over that 22-23. When we get to the growth DBA to star, you'll see what I'm talking about, that when we construct our own and don't have as much to go on, we tend to set the bar pretty high. We are anticipating the highest level of difficulty that we can so that we know that our students have been exposed to as much as possible, and then we tend to see when the star comes out, oh, okay, we made that even harder than the star ended up being. So we are concerned at approaches. Our teachers are, of course, we have built-in star review units and additional practice in the Cambium platform, and we will definitely dig into that and study when we see the released star and how close were we in these DBA questions. Was this a difference in the preparation or a difference in the question type? So we just don't have enough information to answer all that yet, but we have data of what our students were and weren't able to demonstrate, so we're intervening on those things before they get to STAR. In 8th grade, we saw actually more of an uptick compared to the previous year's DBA. The same is true in 8th grade, and the same is true in biology as far as that overlap test and now the new item types. But biology has always been just the biology standards. And those movements were actually very small this year compared to last. So when we look at DBA to STAR, since I can't compare year to year for this group of students, you can see if you look back at 22-23, we had really significant gains. You know, the purple is the approaches, blue meets, green masters, and you see big jumps up. And we have, in studying that, we wrote to a higher level than what we saw in STAR when those stars were released that year. So last year when we had the overlap TEKS, our DBA did not predict as well. So we're going to continue to study this, but it's really hard. I've got 4 years of data to show you, and there's just new variables introduced in every one of those years. We see similar in 8th grade. Our masters did not move forward between DBA and STAR, so really digging in what else can we do for our students, not just intervening and filling gaps, but how do we make sure our students performing at the high level that we continue to push them to that highest level. And the same thing happened in biology at Masters. So again, we can't take our eyes off. We can't assume we're going to work here with our students that are struggling in that purple approaches. We have to grow all of our students wherever they are performing from DBA to STAR. And then there's no cohort data since they don't test every year in science. Questions? Spent more on the background just because it's different.
Yeah, I mean, looking at these results, it's not the numbers that are frustrating. It's just knowing that as a board, we can't really tell year to year what's happening just because they're constantly playing with this, and you're doing the best you can to read the mind of TEA, which is probably.
And we have one more year of STAR after this.
Yeah.
So we'll figure it out. We'll get this year's STAR, and then we'll get it right for next year, and then we'll have a new test again.
Yes, so start over again. So another at least 4 years of not really having any understanding of whether we're growing.
We do our best and dig in there a lot. And, attending our curriculum coordinators and facilitators are constantly attending regional meetings and things like that, trying to get our best handle on the information as it comes available. So,
Holly, I just want to say, your group, you all do a great job as a former teacher.
I am very blessed to stand here and get to represent all the work that they do. Okay, I also have social studies for you. Social studies is also unique when you think about math versus English, same strategic plan alignment, same consideration for interim. What we have to think about the special context when we talk about social studies, we have 8th grade and 11th grade. 11th grade, we have trimesters, and we have tried a number of things over the years because if we try to shut down and administer a DBA like we do in other grades, a third of our students aren't even in the course, a third of them are in the second half of the course, and a third of them are in the first half of the course. So that has not been great. We have years that we have relied more heavily on our CBAs. We have shifted to a version where instead of shutting down for a mock test, we're giving a shorter version of the DBA. By 11th grade, they're used to the stamina of these tests. So instead of practicing that shutdown for the stamina, we're just trying to concentrate on the TEKS that we really need to be sure we assess and fill any gaps. And so it is shorter than a regular EOC test so that it can be done within the class period. That way they all take it while they are in Part B of U.S. History, even though for some of them that is winter try and some of them that is spring try. And again, we won't have cohort. So 8th grade, we're actually very close to last year's performance, which had shown big gains over last year. 8th grade is a very intense test, a lot of information, and the first time they're testing in social studies. 11th grade, we are down from last year. The interim was not as reliable, and the year before that, we only gave the CBA. We were not doing the shutdown. We used the CBAs throughout the 6 weeks. So we have less data to look at a trend, but our teachers have this data to know which students were missing which content, and to continue to revise and intervene and support them. Our growth star has been a little more varied. 8th grade U.S. history, 8th grade U.S. history social studies test is one of the longest and just very intensive. And then we tend to get very strong results at approaches on the 11th grade social studies, but we have to keep our eye on our meets and our masters. You can see last year we did have some growth at meets and masters between DBA and STAR, so hopefully with this data in hand, our teachers are making their plans and intervening to support those students. Questions about social studies?
Any questions? Thank you. All right, 8.04 Collegiate Academy update. Ms. Rhodes. Dr. Toby.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Dr. Givens, who will be providing us with the Collegiate update.
Thank you. So I'm here to provide a spring update for the Collegiate Academy, the newest school of HEBI ISD. We've really focused on Goal 1, Indicator 4, of course, for college, career, and military readiness. I've got good news to report. By summer of this year, 100% of our students should be CCMR met, having the 9 college hours. So And that should be the case moving forward each year. More good news, I'll talk about recruitment first. We did recruitment just like we did last year. We visited all 5 junior highs and had parent nights. We followed up by visiting all 5 junior highs and meeting with kids and talking to them directly about the program. We thought that was successful. Last year, you can see we had 192 apply. We had almost 50 more apply this year. So numbers are great. We admitted 120. So far, we've had 106 apply. So we feel really good about where we are in comparison to the interest level of this program. Way, way higher than some of the programs in the surrounding area.
Toby, is that 106
Accepted, yes.
So I think we were looking at 100. What's our maximum capacity?
We want to have 100. Our maximum is about 100 to 102, depending on room space and all that. So 100 is the goal, and that's what TCC says that they can accommodate with their professors and the classes our kids take.
So what are we going to do if we have a number of acceptances over what we can have?
The 106, the deadline passed, so that's our hard number, and based upon our experience from last year, we had 6 to 8 change their mind, their friends talked them out of it, et cetera. So,
okay.
And we, of course, if we do drop below that 100, we've got a wait list of 90-something. TSI scores, I mentioned a little in the fall update, but that's been our real sole focus this year because, as I mentioned, there's a real urgency for our kids to be TSI met by the end of their sophomore year so they can take those higher level junior and senior math and English classes in order to obtain their associate's degree. So you can see on May 2025, that was our Camp Collegiate. These kids just finished the 8th grade. Those were the results. And we set the goal of 70% meeting one or other, or both would be great by the end of this year. We didn't realize how audacious of a goal that was until I found out just recently that about 25% is the average for early college high schools. However, if you look at the bottom, we are at 42%, a 21% increase, and we're sitting on about 30 kids who are going to make it, and we're going to get that goal. They're going to test, everyone's going to test at least one more time. Some will test 2 if they need it. So we're excited about those numbers. We're going to keep pushing forward and getting as many across the finish line this year so they won't have to worry about it, because the thing with TSI, once you do it, you don't ever take it again. This slide just shows you the classes that our kids took this year, the black or HEB core classes. The gold are the TCC dual credit. So you can see the 3 classes, that's the 9 hours students will get this year. Next year, of course, we'll add the 4 core classes. In the 10th grade, they're going to have speech and economics, which are more difficult classes for sure than the classes they're taking this year. And then the pathways moves from a college class to our own HEB class, and that will continue. If this next slide showed 11th and 12th grade, all the courses would be gold except for pathways. That's going to be our one check-in for kids to say, open your computer, show us your TCC grades, let's look at your attendance, let's do those things to keep them on track. Now, hopefully year 1 and 2, we train them to be successful college students and not have to check, but we're checking anyway. So the 11th and 12th grade are essentially all dual credit classes. I think we're out of, anyway, there was a slide missing, I think, but what we really tried to focus on outside of academics is providing an experience for kids that they could have on a traditional high school campus, and we have a really active PTA. Our kids are all members. They actually came up with the 6 clubs that we offer, clubs and organizations we offer on Friday afternoons when there are no TCC classes. They're all a member of 2, and every staff member, including me, sponsors one of those clubs, and they love it. Our attendance on Fridays is better than any other day of the week, and I don't know of any other school or even business that could say that's the case. So this is our fall dance, and you can see they did the decorations, they came up with the theme, they built an Eiffel Tower, they did the whole thing, and they dressed like it was prom for these kids. And 75 kids came to this dance. So as a secondary administrator for a long time, if I ever had 75% of my kids show up for a dance, I couldn't have the dance on campus. I don't know where it would be. So we're really happy about how excited they were for this, and it was really a cool night for them. Some more pictures of our visual and performing arts, our cooking club. I want to mention the young man in the yellow apron. So this has really kind of become the eating club because we found out you can't bring hot plates and other rules like that at TCC. So he's actually gone out to the community and he's gotten 4 or 5 restaurants to come bring food in, talk to them about franchises and entrepreneurship. So it's really been a great community outreach and for our kids to show leadership in these organizations. Here's our gaming, like esports and aviation club. We have a really big Junior World Affairs Council. And overall, this year has gone tremendously well. Our relationship with TCC is excellent. Dr. Harrington has really helped that. He's their favorite superintendent. They've told me many times. And I would invite all of you guys, if you haven't come to see the campus, to come by and see it. Any questions?
How is the working on the new place, the new facility?
It's going well. We have monthly updates with the TCC president and vice president. They're going to, as I have told some of you, they're going to completely renovate our lunch area next year so we can accommodate 200 students at lunch. We're going to have 9 dedicated classrooms, an actual nurse's office with running water and those important things. So we're excited about that space that we're going to move into.
The kids were excited. I just want to say, when I stuck my head in a classroom, I was just like overwhelmed with the look on their face. It was something to behold. Great program. Thank you, Toby.
Well, and I saw you all the other day testing at the auxiliary services facility. So talk to me about why you were at that location.
So we were concerned about the connectivity issues. Over at TCC, we have not had the HEB network hard run to that building. And so what we didn't want to have is on the real STAR test, our kids to encounter things that would negate all the hard work they put in. So we were going to be better safe than sorry. And that worked really well last Friday. We're going to do it the next 2 Fridays in order to make that happen.
So coming out of a long time being a junior high principal, moving into this new role, what's the difference of your 9th graders between being on a junior high campus versus being at the university?
Yeah, I think that's one of the first things I noticed this year is our 9th graders, because I've worked with 9th graders up to this year, 31 years now, and our 9th graders would act like 9th graders when they're on a junior high campus. When they're on that campus, they act more and mostly like the college kids. You know, they sit down, they talk, they have civil conversations that are soft in voice, and there's not pushing and shoving while they're talking and all those things. And so it's been really cool to see them grow up and adapt to their surroundings and environment.
Toby, I'd like to thank you for what you've done for HEB. And I'd like to know what you're going to do your first 3 weeks when you're.
Well, my first 4 weeks, I'm going with my entire family, my wife and 2 boys, and we're going to South Africa, and we're going to spend the entire month in South Africa and Zimbabwe and going to Victoria Falls.
Oh, you travel a lot. I try to keep up with you, but it's sometimes difficult. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Toby.
Thank you, Toby. All right, let's see. 8.05, instructional improvement meetings. Dr. Johnson.
Okay. Good evening. I am super excited to bring you a little peek behind the curtain of how the machine operates of EdOps and how we use continuous improvement to improve student outcomes. So the title is Continuous Improvement Through Instructional Improvement Meetings. You might hear us refer to these as IIMs. And you're kind of like, why is there IIM? This is what it means, Instructional Improvement Meetings. And so what we do is we use the PDSA, Plan, Do, Study, Act to improve our student outcomes. I could have put the entire strategic plan on here, but when we're going through this work, we focus on priority student success with quality indicators 1 through 5. And it's fitting that Dr. Norgard spoke about how we're constantly adapting, and it becomes a little frustrating. And our path through some of the frustration and some of the changes is the fact that we never believe we're done. And that's the core tenet of continuous improvement. So because we're never done, it's just another adjustment. We'll adjust, we'll adapt, and we'll just keep plugging away. And the most important part of that is that's how we ensure that kids are learning. So sometimes when we're making comparisons between what they did 2 years ago or what they did last year and how they're currently tracking, we might think that, oh no, kids aren't learning at the same rate. Well, we know that they are, and that information continues to be presented. And I just want to kind of talk about us as adults. Many of the certification tests that we take, the bar, their HVAC certifications, data science, website planning, etc. Many of the certifications we take are locked, and they don't change for a while. And so you know that if you follow these materials, you will have your best chance to be successful. We don't always know what those blueprints are until they produce them, and that's where we take that blueprint, we adapt it to our system, and we get ready to go. So in PDSA, you've seen this graphic before, and just for those who are listening at home, we believe that the more time we spend planning, okay, Einstein says that, if I had 60 minutes to solve a problem, I spend 55 minutes, thinking about the problem, and 5 minutes for solutions. So I want to go just a step further. We want to make sure we're thinking about the right problem. We can solve any problem. We can do anything we choose to do. But it's about focusing on the right things, and that's where our campuses do a fantastic job of focusing on that. So plan, we spend half of our PDSA cycle planning, and then we study, and we act. And I just want to call this back. The focus is on adult behavior. You're going to hear me talk about adult behavior, because it's not about what the kids do. We can say that when we root cause, well, this group of kids was lower than the last group of kids, or they were higher than the last group of kids. It's not about the kids. It's about our adult behavior and our adult practices that drive the student outcomes. So a little bit about the IAM cadence and structure. The why, this is an opportunity for our principals to come in and present their work. Our goal is, it's kind of intimidating at first, because you're presenting your goal, your work that you're focusing on, of the CIPs that you all approve in October. They're presenting that in front of their peers, and so it is a little nerve-wracking at the beginning. And then as we go through it, all of our young principals that you just appointed, they will learn this process from the principal chair. As we go through it, it becomes a PLC, and they start writing and taking notes, and they come up with ideas, and they check in with each other afterwards. And so it becomes a collaboration opportunity to share the great work that they're doing themselves and their campuses. The focus is, we want to have clear and consistent expectations for how we're going to develop our improvement plans. And our frequency, we have an initial meeting, which is in September and October, and then we have a mid-year meeting, and then we have 1 to 2 updates with the supervisor throughout the year. And so what I want to call out with our frequency is, the entire EdOps leadership team shuts down for 3 half days. And we believe that during those 3 half days, the most important thing that we can do is hear what the campuses are working on with 2 lenses. Number 1, to help be a thinking partner and critical thinking partner, and ask questions to ensure that their plans don't have any gaps. The second piece is looking at where we can support from the district level. When we have a group of students that are not performing where we want them to be performing, and it's consistent in a grade level, we look at where can we adjust the curriculum, what has changed, that's where a lot of the things start. What has changed, what are we seeing, we root cause, we look internally first. And the goal is that if we look internally, then every piece throughout the chain below, they look internally as well, and we have a sense of ownership. And so you just appointed 4 principals, and you just had an entire staff that's really excited about the work that they're doing. And we believe that, we call it the efficacy triangle. We believe people want to do meaningful work. They want to do it with people that they have meaningful relationships, and you saw that, the cheering and the jeering and all that. And then the most important thing that Dr. Harrington talks about all the time, category 7 in Baldrige, it's getting results. When all those 3 things come together, then we are really cooking, and kids are performing, and they put themselves on track to be successful the next grade level and beyond. And so that's important, because there's ownership at every level, and then there's ownership from Dr. Norgard and the EdOps team to you all as a board. So that's how our system works. So the initial plan, in the initial meeting, we have a 10-8-2 structure. And so we protocol it, because we got to pack it in. We don't want to take any more time than we need to. So they have 20 minutes to come in and present. And so they've got 10 minutes to start with the initial presentation. And so they give us an overview of their needs assessment, their root cause, SMART goals, key alignment, key actions. Now, in the IIMs, they have many goals in their CIPs. We ask them to pull out 1 to 2 of those goals for their IIMs, and that's what they're going to report out on to us. Then we have an open dialogue with the EdOps team, and And we ask questions, hey, I don't quite understand, or what happened with this particular grade level that I know that this has been something that you've been working on. How are those PLCs going? All of those types of things. And then we finish with 2 minutes of commitments. It's commitments of things that we want the campus principals to go back and work with their teams with because of what they presented to us. And then it's also commitments of support that we say that we're going to send our district resources, our curriculum coordinators, facilitators, principals, supervisors, et cetera, to the campus to support their work on their goals. So then once they're able to present those, then we come back mid-year, which is typically in February, and we do a 1082 protocol again, but it's a little different because this time they're refreshing us about what their goals were, and then they're giving us the data on how their campus is performing. Because we keep district data, but they also have campus data on walkthroughs and things like that I'll talk about in a minute. But for 10 minutes, they review their goals, they highlight the process, and then they talk about gaps and needed support. We have that open dialogue. And then at this point, this is where if you have a need, any need, you better throw it out here because this is our opportunity to make sure that you have the support that you need from the ed ops team. And so sometimes you'll see us shift resources to one area or a grade level based upon the data that we're seeing and the support that's needed. And then the end of the year reflection. One of the things I frequently talk to principals about is that we do this work because at the end of the year, the dust settles. We are focused on the adult behavior. We know that it's hard work. We know that it's meaningful work. We're going to celebrate all the work that we did, regardless of where we land. We're going to celebrate the people, and then we're going to get right back to work, figuring out where our gaps were, and start the process all over again. So we have to celebrate the work that people did because everybody shows up every day trying to do right by kids. And the most important thing for us is to build a system that takes our great and makes them even better, and our good and brings everybody up. So I want to call that out. So what it looks like for in practice, the campuses they're going to determine their priority problem. They look at last year's data, STAR data, and then they will get with their team of teachers and they will analyze, do a root cause analysis. And from there, they'll begin to develop smart actions. Now, this is the important part because this is those same teachers that were really excited about the people that they're going to be working for and with. And then they're also diving in and taking ownership. I am going to take this action. I am going to implement this best practice in my classroom. You can see that when you come in to my classroom and provide formative feedback. And so they are the co-creators of these smart actions, smart goals and key actions. And then we monitor, adjust, and measure. And so that is how the process goes. And so I want to give you a little bit of an example. We look through leading indicators. This is where we can say, okay, if we do these things every day, then we know that we will begin to track that when we do take a test, we'll be successful. So depth and quality of our PLCs, our LTEP process, student work analysis and cycles completed, and walkthroughs. You have to inspect what you expect. And so it's not just about doing walkthroughs and checking a box. It's about doing walkthroughs and giving teachers feedback about the practices that they're implementing so that they can turn around and implement improved practices moving forward for the rest of the day or the rest of the week, et cetera. The lagging indicators, that's what Dr. Norgard produces in her reports that she brings to you. We're looking at everything across the board. And some of the campuses, we implemented unit tests this year. And so some of the campuses, when we want to know what our leading indicators for those lagging indicators, they have their exit tickets inside the classroom. And so they can tell you how a student is trending for a unit test. And then if we have below target performance, we ask ourselves, what's the problem? What's the impact of this problem? And then what action steps need to be adjusted, and then what support's needed. And so they'll have a support needed slide. And so I just so happen to have two fantastic administrators in the back. Wave. There we go. And because they're part of the example. So what happens when you have a group of people who own the work that they do at such a high level? They make it fun. And so this is the 5th grade Trinity Lakes team. And last year, they set a goal in 24-25. Their middle of the year growth was 37.5%. And then their end of the year growth was 41.18%. So they set a goal that they wanted to make sure that at the end of the year, they were at 55%. Because of the work that they've done and the ownership that the teachers have, they actually hit the mid-year goal of 71%, far above the 55%. Now, you're wondering, what's that picture? Like, what is that? Because, I mean, we don't come dressed to school like that every day. It is tattoos. That's exactly what it is. They were so invested. Can you imagine having a bunch of kids that met their goal, their growth goal, and then they get to tattoo, they each get a tattoo. They get to tattoo their teachers, and their teachers are taking the picture because that's how many kids met their growth goals, and they got tattoos all over them. And so again, this is how the machine works, and this is the level of ownership that when everyone's invested, great things happen. So really proud of the work these administrators and these 5th grade teachers, as well as all the teachers in our district, because it gets hard to give you examples, because I can be up here all day long about setting a goal and then tracking the data to see how we're doing leading towards those goals. And so again, what we focus on, we know what we focus on improves. We determine the problem, we focus on the adult behavior, and there is no blame. And then we set SMART goals and monitor performance and impact. And so that is our PDSA cycle and how we do IIMs that align with our campus improvement plans.
How long, when did you start this? When did you start
So
the IIMs?
IIMs have been going on for a while, and I'll go back to Lydia Martin. You know, they were just done in a different way. We began probably four years ago. We began the process of having them present and grouping them. And so one of the interesting things about how we did the groupings, we first started by grouping by area, feeder pattern. And so that was a great collaboration in PLC. Then we have shifted and adjusted, and now we have them grouped by goals this year. And so it's something that we will continue to tweak, but we tweak those based upon their feedback, because we also have the curriculum coordinators and facilitators that sit in on this. So if I have a math goal, you know, I have Gary and I have Michelle sitting in on that. If I have an ELR goal, I have the two of these ladies sitting here. And so we want to make sure that whatever goal they're presenting, they have the people in the room that can say, hey, I can help with that. I'll come by your campus and I'll talk with you a little bit more.
Okay, so let me understand this process. What I think you're saying is they put their campus improvement plans together, and then you have them pick out administratively up here, you have them pick out a couple of goals, and then the administrator, the principals are coming up here and talking to you about what you're doing. But meanwhile, down at their campus, they are working in teams to facilitate that information.
Yes.
So they're going back and communicating with them so that when those principals come up here, then they have some things that they can say, hey, we needed this stuff. The teachers say, this is what we need to be able to do this better.
Absolutely. That's one of our feedback systems. So the teachers tell the campus administrators what they need, and they put it all on that last slide, and that's at the end of the conversation. So they're getting feedback from teachers, and then we're getting feedback from them. And that's why I say we just continue to refine the cycle. And our goals are continue to push that down, because what we would love to see on campuses is that they begin to report out on in their meetings with one another, because this is just a global report out on a grade level, a specific group of goals. So what you've also seen with CIPs is we've shifted from 10 to 14, however many different goals. The research says that 3 to 5 goals tops. And so we've really pushed them to cull down. You're going to work on a lot of things. We know that. But we're saying, okay, what are your big rocks? And that's what we ask them to focus on.
Because having been alive since we started those, they've gone from this monstrosity of whatever that, oh Lord, this is everything we're going to do. So basically, we are actually putting some meat behind the campus improvement plans that we've been doing for years. So I just want to say thank you for that, having done those. I have a question on the PLCs, because this is something that I find interesting. PLC's been around for a while educationally, but we haven't always embraced that here in HEB, the PLCs. And I know that's become a bigger thing now. How is that working, at the campus level? When do we have time? When are the teachers finding time? And I know that's different at elementary to secondary. All my experiences at secondary, so I know where the problems would have been there. But how are we doing that individually at the campus PLCs?
So for clarification, for us, PLCs typically mean something a little different than other districts. Okay. Other districts go after the Rick and Becky, the 4 model, which is the 4 questions, which is still involved in our process. But when we talk about PLCs, we're talking about the fact that we're collaborating over LTEP practices, and so we have our data now, our planning meetings, and then our data analysis meetings. So that I want to make sure that there's a clarity of what PLCs mean for us and what it might mean for someone else. We have campuses that do their PLCs. There are subs, and they get a sub for the day or for a half day, and they're meeting in PLCs and planning out, and principals do that. Some principals, they meet after school on the request of the teacher. At the secondary level, we continue to kind of develop and build that airplane in the air as we do that. We've got lead teachers. She's nodding her head because it really is difficult at secondary because there are so many moving parts. But the key is we're building our own system, because we're not trying to fit into what everybody else is doing, because we're going to do what works for us. And so we're still learning and growing through secondary, but we're starting slowly with one content area at a time.
Okay. Yeah, because time is always the biggest culprit in really finding that situation. I really think this is a great thing that y'all are doing, especially this information and coming back up to report to y'all, because then is the leadership team making an effort then to get out on the campuses so you can actually see from time to time? I know y'all are busy, but.
So I had an opportunity to go by campus this morning, and I shared with a couple of the EdOps leadership team. I said, I got a chance to see something that we've been talking about for the last couple of months. And every week it's been on our agenda, and we ask ourselves, do the campuses have what they need? And if they need something, okay, is this a system issue, or is this an individual campus or a pocket issue? And so if you ask me, how do we know if we're doing what we need to do to support campuses? We're always asking, and we're always trying to hit the mark. And again, that's the CIPs, because we know that sometimes we might not ever hit the mark, ever arrive there, but the goal is to strive for that perfection, because at the end of the day, I want these two back in the back to know that we got your back. And whatever we can do to support you, we're going to make sure that we do it. And so if she says, hey, I need more FaceTime, there'll be more FaceTime. She says, hey, we need you to leave us alone for a little bit while we get our stuff together. Hey, let's give them a little bit of space. And so that's our way of really trying to hear the voice of the customer and listening to feedback. And we kind of have a protocol in EdOps, and it's, are you open to feedback?
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you, Dr. Johnson. All right, we're down to regular board meeting items, financial statements for the month of February.
Good evening. I know after the earlier celebrations, you're going to expect something funny and wisecrack from me, but I got nothing. I got nothing.
Oh, we know you, Dobie. We're good.
I got nothing.
Come on, Dobie. Come on, Dobie.
I can't top any of that. All right, we're going to start with the financial statements ending February 28th, 2026. General fund balance, we have a fund balance of $239,626,349. That's represents revenues over expenditures in the amount of $64,041,903. In interest revenue for the period was $3,044,494. Total expenditures as of the end of February were at 46.75%, so well within our parameters. The general fund expenditure matrix payroll was sitting at $98,923,920, and that's currently 83.9%. Utilities of $2,707,180, we're at 2.3%. Instructional supplies of $1,603,788, we're at 1.4%. And other expenditures, mainly property insurance, we're at $2,732,155, or 2.3%. Child Nutrition Fund had a fund balance of $8,376,730. That represents revenues over expenditures in the amount of $1,055,480. Investment interest revenue for the year as of this reporting period was at $88,214 for this fund. Total expenditures as of February 28th were at 39.39% of the budgets. So that that budget's operating well, within our parameters. Debt service fund is at fund balance of $75,791,457. That represents revenues over expenditures in the amount of $50,737,239. Interest revenue for this fund was sitting at $786,918. This is the end of February. You're going to see this revenues start declining a little because most of our tax collections, the bulk of them, have been collected during January and February. So we'll still collect, obviously, throughout the year, but they'll just start going down incrementally. Of course, we made our first debt service payment on February 15th, and we will make our final debt service payment of the year on August 15th. Tuition-based pre-K fund has a fund balance of $469,580. That's revenue over expenditures in the amount of $140,335. As of February the 28th, that was 22.9% of their budget. Special revenue funds, total expenditures were at 25.28% of the budget. Expenditures, as I say every month, exceed revenues due to the lag in TEA reimbursements and all federal funds and whatnot. But all those programs are tracking as expected. Campus Activity Fund, revenues exceed expenditures, a fund balance of $4,373,236. That represents revenues over expenditures in the amount of $938,388. Revenues were at $2.286 million, while expenditures were at $1.347 million. So those fundraising activities and expenditures are performing as we expect for this time of year. Bond fund, we broke the 400 million barrier, going down. We're at 399, 223, 770. That's expenditures over revenues in the amount of 873, 904. Investment interest as of this reporting was at $4,743,339. And we've actually been looking at, we're going to try to push the next issue of those bonds back towards the end of this year now, maybe the first part of next year. I'm working with jurists right now to get some updated draw schedules and then looking at our balances to make sure we have plenty of funds adequate to keep paying our construction bills. But we want to make sure we capitalize on the market as best we can when we do issue those bonds, like we did last time. And the locally defined capital projects fund, $29,589,989. That's expenditures over revenues in the amount of $939,591. Most of our projects we're paying out of that right now are kind of dwindling down, coming to an end. So But I assure you, we'll probably bring you some new ones before too long, as we need to. But other than that, any questions?
Any questions on financial statements? All right, budget transfers and amendment requests.
Okay, as far as budget transfers, very minimal this month. We had $191 from Function 23 to Function 51 for school leadership for custodial overtime, and increase to superintendent travel budget, but that's within his budget, so it's not an increase in budget, it's just moving money, but that is required to come to the board for approval, but that's it.
All right, any questions on the transfers? All right, 9.03 quarterly investment report for the quarter ending February 2026.
The quarterly investment report ending end of February, our interest rates they're right down around 3.8%, so they didn't change. I think they were 3.9 the last quarter, so didn't drop a whole lot, but other than that, we're doing as well as we can do with our investments. Super safe, super conservative.
Any questions on the investment report? All right, 9.04. I think that's it.
That's it for me. Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Dobie. 9.04, certification of provision of instructional materials survey for the 2026-2027 school year. Dr. Norgard.
This is simply our annual report to the state of what resources we're using in each of our core content areas and giving our assurance that it's aligned to 100% of the TEKS.
All right, any questions? Thank you. 9.05, extension of annual purchase of fuel. Mr. Kerbo.
Good evening. This is the last of the extension options available through the Tarrant County Purchasing Cooperative, where we've purchased our fuel for the last several years, and we continue to have needs to purchase fuel. We ask to keep it at the same amount that we anticipated last year, $950,000.
All right, any questions on this extension? All right. It's my understanding that the administration is pulling 9.06 to 9.08, but I wanted to give the board members a chance to ask any questions about those items if they wanted to.
Well, will you just give us an overview of what's going to happen now that it's being pulled? This is the second time it's been pulled. So what are we going to do between now and the next time we see this?
Yeah, so the first time there were some questions, we had some questions on the architect, and we were going to have the architect here to answer those questions. But since then, we received additional questions, and as we talked ELT, we shared some of those questions that we asked that we do have additional questions that need to be answered. So we wanted to use one of our processes, our EII, so evaluate this, and look at it from a different point of view as we look at these marquees. So making sure that, I think we were looking at it more of a, it's time to change an air conditioner, change a water heater. I think the marquees, because it is a different device in how they're used and they do evolve, we need to look at the continued use of marquees, how they work, how they fit into the day-to-day operations of campuses, what are they used for, are they used at all levels in the same effort, and do they have, are we seeing results from that? So we're going to have to gather information. So we'll talk with, Dr. Allen, Lauren Allen, and look at doing, I would say, an evaluation where it's almost the way we're looking at them, it almost becomes innovation, but I think part of that EII. So look at it that way.
All right, any additional questions? All right, thank you. We're down to 9.09, intercom system upgrade and installation. Dr. Hopkins.
Hello. So this is just the request to continue to upgrade our end-of-life systems with our intercoms. Any questions?
Any questions on the intercom upgrades? All right, thank you. 9.10, replacement of student and administrative devices. Any questions on this? No. 9.11, change order number 1 to Wilshire Elementary School construction schedule. I don't see Josh Miner, so I'll say Mr. Kerbo.
I'll be standing in for Josh this evening. So. This is similar to an action that we brought, I think, the last meeting or 2 meetings ago, where we changed the construction schedule for Midway Park, added 143 days at no additional cost. On the schedule in that change order, it showed Wilshire's extension, but it did not mention it in the change order. So this change order is basically identical to that, which extends the schedule to 103 days, which aligns with what the proposed construction schedule has become, and makes it more, it aligns it with all the projects that we have now. So there's no additional cost, just in extending this for 103 days.
But it's not extending our move-in date.
That's correct.
It's phase 2. It's the demolition of the building. So
That's correct.
We're not extending the time it's going to take to build the building.
No, we're not.
Yeah, it's not putting us behind schedule per se.
I'm sorry?
It's not putting us behind schedule per se. It's just.
No, it gives us more time on the for phase 2, which won't impact the move-in and so forth.
All right. Any additional questions? Thank you, Mr. Kerbo. Action items 10.01, consider approval of donations for the April regular board meeting presentation of certificates of appreciation. I will accept the motion.
I move the board approve the April 2026 donations as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the April 2026 donations as presented. Please vote.
How do I get it to come back up?
Show voting, see what it says. And that motion passes.
Pause for a second. Take a picture of the screen. I'm working with them.
All right. Item 10.02, consider approval of settlement agreement and release for the state, I can't pronounce the name,
EGK.
EGK, et al. Versus Hurst-Euless-Bedford Independent School District. Ms. Tuttle?
Do you have any questions about the settlement and release?
All right. I will accept the motion.
I move the board approve the settlement agreement and general release as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the settlement agreement and general release as submitted. Please vote. And that motion passes. 10.03, consider approval of memorandum of understanding with Tarleton State and the Institut de Charot.
Good job.
I'm not a French speaker. Lyon, France.
Any questions?
Any questions on these MOUs? Then I'll accept the motion.
Move that the board approve the memorandums of understanding as presented.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the memorandums of understanding as presented. Please vote. And that motion passes. 10.04, consider approval of East Gate and ramp improvements at Pennington Field. Mr. Kerbo.
In order to improve the flow of activity around Pennington Field, particularly where it related to VPA performances and competitions and so forth that we host there, in addition to athletic events, project to demolish or remove the ticket booth on the east side and replace it with a ramp and a east gate that can be secured, which will allow performers to enter one end and do their performance and go out the other end, make for a smooth transition plus for athletic events, to allow one team assigned to one gate to enter, another to the other gate to enter. So it relieves any congestion and any potential conflict that may happen with that dynamic. So we're recommending this to be done through our managed job order contract process and at the price that's mentioned in there.
So where does the ramp end? Does it ramp all the way down to the street level or just to the sidewalk?
Mr. Fielder knows the terrain very well over there, better than I do, so I will let him explain that to you.
Starting east, the ramp will begin at the curb, but the curb will disappear. It'll be flat because we're rolling those instruments or those big chests for athletics, football games, whatever. So the curb, instead of being straight right across where the street is, it'll curb in and comes right off of the road, be smooth all the way. And it's actually the football field's a lot higher than that street. So it'll definitely have a slope, and we got to be to code on that slope. So it's going to be a pretty long ramp. The gate will be pretty much where the brick wall is now.
How long is the total drop? Do you know? Is it a couple feet or?
I would say, I'm going to guess and say probably 6 to 8 foot from street to field.
I wouldn't guess that how much, but yeah. So that was my question, because I didn't know if it went all the way to the street, because I could imagine kids coming down that ramp with those marimbas and trying to make that turn onto the sidewalk without going off the curb.
Yeah, it'll be gradual. Okay. And like I said, we got to go according to code, so it'll be safe.
So does this affect the bleachers on that side?
It's going to be right square in the middle of those. It'll look really good.
Okay.
Because we've got those east bleachers, some on the east side, some on the west, with a gap about goalpost width, and that's about the width of that ramp.
So the gates open up and kind of rest against the bleachers.
Right, kind of like the Cotton Bowl, if you've ever done that ramp.
Mike, do we follow ADA where it has to be, 1 foot per inch?
I'm certain we're going to have to do whatever that code is, and I don't know exactly what that is, but we are going to have to follow that. There's a rise and a fall that's required.
All right. Any additional questions? I'll accept the motion.
I move the board approve the job order contract proposal for Freedom Construction for the construction and installation of a gate and a ramp on the east side of Pennington Field as presented.
Second.
All right, we're going to pause for just a second to let Ms. Cole get back in the meeting.
I think I did it. I think it was next.
Yeah, if you X out the wrong thing, you're just completely out. It's not even showing the meeting.
Yes, please. I thought I went here. Yeah.
Probably under previous.
Oh, here it is. Okay, I'm ready. Sorry.
All right, we have a motion and a second. And that motion passes.
Thank y'all very much.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, guys. 10.05, consider approval of amendment number 2 to master services agreement with the HORE program management.
Go ahead.
I want to explain why Josh isn't here. He actually serves on the TASB Energy Board, and they are meeting first thing in the morning in Austin. So I thought between Gary and I, we could handle these, and I could get him on the road and not have to be driving after this meeting to Austin. So, plus he's got to get back tomorrow evening to attend a city council meeting at Hurst. So I just thought that was the right thing to do. So anyway, we're gonna tackle this one. I'll let Gary give you the details.
Well, this is Amendment 2 to this master services agreement between the district and HPM, and this reduces their scope considerably by, I don't remember the exact amount, $9,572,000 and some amount. And so that gets us to where we need to be with this, and it does allow for additional services as needed if we need them to provide audit services or any sort of program management services representing the district in meetings. But for the most part, this will finalize our agreement with HPM, and we will be on our own.
All right. And I might add, the only remaining, it's just a safety net if we should need their services for primarily auditing services on the back end, if we want to hire them to come back in and do that, which we'll consider that down the road. Or if, say, our property managers quit and we just got in a bind, we've got a kind of a safety net we can fall back on. So, but we are completely paid out with them right now. So far we've spent $3,268,000 and some change.
Do we anticipate making, because we're reducing the contract down to the 4.8, do we anticipate paying them up to the 4.8, or is that?
Well, that's, the 3.268 has already come out of that that's the not to exceed price, so that leaves about $1.5 million possible not to exceed price in the future, but we don't anticipate having to use that. No, not at all.
So
That's our goal.
When we were looking at the financials on the bond last meeting, we had not added the HPM piece into Trinity and Bell.
Correct.
Will this do what we need to do in order to add
Yes,
that piece into the
yes.
budget?
The next at the facilities meeting, really, it'll add those pieces back in there, which, whatever that, 9 million or so, and then at some point, the other 1.5 also, so.
Thank you.
All right, any additional questions? I'll accept a motion.
I move that the board approve amendment number 2 to the master services agreement between the district and HORE program management as presented.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve amendment number 2, the master services agreement between the district and HORE program management as presented. Please vote. And that motion passes. We're down to other business. Does any board member have any items they'd like added to a future board agenda? All right, 11.02, I've looked over the board activity chart, and it looks like we're in pretty good shape. 11.03, plus deltas for the extra mile reception. Harrington.
Yeah, so we're going to go through those, so if you could take out your sticky notes, and I'll collect them in a moment. But it is sticky note time for our plus delta parking lot for extra mile. I think I can do it. I feel like we should have the Jeopardy music going while we're taking it.
Andy wins.
I answered problems, I'm sorry.
Take care.
Okay, you take care.
I wasn't there.
Answer for us? Let's go.
No, Andy's, no problem, it's great.
The food was great.
The food was great, but that's always such a popular, just the camaraderie in that room and everybody sitting down and enjoying that time together with the food that Child Nutrition provides is always history. Okay, so we got no problems, great event. Hector did a great job as MC. I thought Hector did do a great job. And then great event always. We had one issue handing out the plaques. We ended up with a nominee who ended up in the wrong category. They were submitted in the wrong category, but their plaque, we had to redo the plaque because the plaque was also in the wrong area. And so as we went through that, that was one little hangup, but I think we adjusted well and got that taken care of. But, all right, well, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Dr. Harrington. 11.04, consider approval of Texas Association of School Boards TASB Superintendent of the Year nomination. Were there any questions on this item? Or anyone want to comment on it?
I think we have a lot to be proud of with Dr. Harrington as our superintendent, and I'm pleased to nominate him for this award.
All right. This is an action item, correct? So I'll accept the motion.
I move that the board approve the TASB Superintendent of the Year resolution.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve the TASB Superintendent of the Year resolution. Please vote. And that motion passes. All right. Let's see. Consider approval of the selection committee for the board officers.
I wondered what that bag was.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, maybe
So,
you were having a present for us.
well, no. Just in a way. All right. So.
Who's drawing the short straw?
Well, we've got to pick three names. So you pick one.
Pick me.
You get to pick one. So what? Be black and each. So our board selection committee this year will be, it's folded very well, Ty. Chris Brown. You can pick your own name. Becky Ewert, pick your own name.
Oh, shoot,
And John began.
Perfect.
All right, so this is usually the point where we go and, since we have it as an agenda item, give everyone a chance to say if they're interested in having a officer position, or if they would not, or what positions they'd be interested in. So, Mr. Cargile? No?
No.
Dr. Begant?
I serve at the pleasure of the board.
Mr. Campos?
I would say the same. Totally available.
Mr. Brown?
Same.
Same.
Same. All right. Me, also the same?
I was confused.
What's that?
Everybody's willing but you. Sorry, Andy, I tell him like it is.
He's good.
I'm good. I've served my time.
All right. So I will ask Mr. Brown to chair the committee.
Absolutely.
We vote on it?
All right, and I will accept a motion.
I move that the board approve Chris Brown, Becky Ewert, and John Began as the board officer nominating committee.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the board to approve Becky Ewert, Chris Brown, and John Began to participate on the board officer nominating committee. Please vote.
I have a discussion first.
Discussion?
Okay, they decide, how come we don't get to vote if we're not one of the three?
We do vote when they bring it as a motion.
Then I can just say, no, I don't want that person.
You can say no, you can amend it.
You can amend, you can do all the
Yeah.
Yeah, you can amend.
You can do anything that you can do on a normal, any other, item that we're voting on. You can amend it, you can vote against it, you can vote for it. And, if you amend it, if you say, no, I don't want this person, I think we should change the selection to this person, then we vote on that change. And if that either passes or it doesn't, if it passes, then we vote on the new one. If it doesn't, then we vote on the previous one.
Okay, I'm done, ready to vote.
Okay. And that motion passes. All right, that puts us at the end of the agenda. We do not need a second closed session, correct? Then I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We're adjourned. It'll be the